good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to Desi and Kim's Coffee Connection.
Woohoo!
Hi,
Yet
Carolyn.
another wonderful Tuesday morning. Morning for
Yes,
me.
hello, Jennifer. Hello, Renee. Good to see your faces. And when I say that, I truly do mean that. We are very blessed to see each other. To see each other
Yes.
a week. That's great. That's great friendship. Maria, great to see you. Loved your Easter posts. Love it. Love it. Hi, Sharon. Love all your family pictures too, Maria. You're so blessed with all the, I can't even imagine. I don't have like a big extended family like that. I have two daughters, neither one have kids. So
those little girls, it changed my life, I tell you.
yes,
So
I
cute.
can only imagine.
No, it's nice seeing everyone.
Yes.
We haven't seen you in so long.
I know, it's been so crazy. I am so sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. We're
That doesn't
glad.
mean
Like
I'm
we
not
know
thinking about you,
your company has been in and out of our conversations. So, as we've had guests and guest speakers and stuff. So it's really great. And we're just super excited for you.
Good, thank you. Well, glad to be here and so excited about everything that you ladies are doing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Kyle. How are you? Good to see you.
Hello, good to see you.
I've actually asked and reached out to Maria to see if they would be a spotlight speaker coming up. So hopefully that'll be in the works with us, right, Maria?
Absolutely, I'll be talking to you.
Awesome.
So, that since you mentioned that, Desi, it is interesting because we started this, we're going on our third year, right? And we started this in the beginning when nobody could get together. And we had a lot of great guest speakers, but it's really interesting because the drone industry has, literally taken off and changed, for the good. And in my opinion, a lot more accepted, I know, in my business. And, so it's time to start bringing back some of the speakers that originally supported the Coffee Connection, because we want to hear like how things have been going for you. You guys have grown by leaps and bounds, and that's such an encouragement to other people, to just know that this is the place to be. Good morning, Jennifer. Hi, Parker. Hi, Roseanne. So yeah, it's pretty cool when we're going around, I just think if we didn't start the Coffee Connection, like we wouldn't be in connection with each other like we are, after everything happened with the COVID and the pandemic. So it's great that networking is the key and relationships are the key. Bottom line.
So while we're on the lines of networking, just a quick little FYI, our guest speaker has not been able to log in just yet. So I was hoping that maybe we can take advantage of this time together and maybe share a little bit about how you've gained value from the networking, some of the points that you have liked about the Coffee Connection, and maybe what you're doing in the industry, right? This is a perfect time to network and know what everybody's doing. All right.
Who wants to be the first?
All right. You know what? On my screen, I have Dennis. So I'm going to do a shout out to Dennis and let you get the ball rolling. And I don't think we've all had an opportunity to meet each other.
All right, great. Great I've gotten a lot of value out of these meetings, just talking to everybody. My role is an educator. So I teach college level BIM, facilities management, and architecture, structures. So I have all kinds of angles where drones help me out. And I've been to a lot of job sites just as a hobbyist. I wear my orange vest and my college ID, and it looks like I'm official there. So no one has bothered me so far. And I've been on to a lot of job sites. I can bring weekly updates to my students on particular job sites. So it's really valuable. Particularly last term, had a temporary structures class, which was all about scaffolding and cranes and that kind of thing. And just the drone was able to provide so much more value for my students. So.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Wonderful. All right. Carolyn, you are the next on my screen here. So how about if we just kind of keep it going? I still don't see our spotlight speaker, but she is in South Africa. So we do have a little bit of a time difference. So we are still working through that. All right.
Sure. Well, I go back to the time when Desi said, you know, I have this little project that I might be working on, and then boom, here we are. Well, I'm happy to say I'm on my 4th spiral bound notebook
Wow, that's great.
of notes and connections. And I just, you know, echo the praises that, you know, it's such a great giving community, and I'm looking so much to those that are able to join us, you know, the end of this week and next week at AUVSI, because I just think we need to go out and say, you know, we're here for each other. So I like the variety of the speakers that we've had, and it's just been wonderful to see everybody putting in the effort to be communicative and be supportive.
That's a really, and Carolyn, I like to piggyback off that because, you know, now when we do go to events, I mean, we're very motivated because we get to see people that we've only seen online, you know, as opposed to not going because we've been out of the loop. You know, we haven't talked to people in a while, but now we get there and it's like you show up. I know with Carolyn, Desi, and a lot of you on here, when we show up at different events, it's like a homecoming, and then everybody wants to know why we know each other and be part of that. So I definitely agree and piggyback on that the networking that we've done online have extended into the conferences and get us looking forward and connecting and saying, hey, are you going to be there? I'm going to be there. So it's that accountability as well. I think these conventions should sponsor us, Desi. Who agrees with that? Who agrees with that?
Awesome. So the next one on my screen here is Jennifer Birdsong. Oh, look, Princella, she's raising her hand there. Jennifer is actually going to be our spotlight speaker for next week.
Nice.
Also excited. So Jennifer, open up and tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the industry.
So I kind of always joke and I say, I spend a lot of my time on the ground. And of course, all of us spend all of our time on the ground, but I have a background in manned aviation and also unmanned aviation. And a topic that we don't talk about enough is preparation on the ground before you actually take flight. We don't talk a lot about human factors. We don't talk a lot about flight prep. We don't talk a lot about what are you doing after you land, after you come back, maybe your reflection time. So the talk we're going to do next week is about safety management systems. A lot of people kind of cut that off at safety and say, I have a checklist, I'm safe. And it's about management systems. It's about the whole loop all the way around. And so when I come to these calls, I love listening to your experiences and your stories, because I take those and then I put that into a lot of the discussions that I have with customers about the full loop and the full circle of the whole day, the whole experience, because flying, as we know, the battery lasts 20 minutes. So what are you doing for the whole day? How is your whole experience safe? And so how are you managing all of that? And so what I like to do is come in and talk about your business. And I like to talk about how to help you make money, how to talk about being safe, and help you put all of that together and just let you focus on flying. And how about we manage the rest of it in the best possible, most efficient way. And a lot of times that doesn't get enough attention. And so I love coming to these and sort of listening into what you guys are doing, and makes my business better and stronger. So thank you very much for that.
Success is a system, right? And a system
Yep.
is what equals success. So everything in everything that we see is, think about manufacturing, it's a system, right? So it's the same thing when we're flying, it's a system for success. We have a lot of different systems here, but that's going to be awesome. I look forward to that. Thanks, Jen.
You bet.
Awesome. All right. So the next on my screen, I'm just kind of doing a little around the clock kind of thing, is Maria, who we just slightly heard a little bit about, and or again.
But she keeps
looking
coming
forward
back,
to-
and that's what's great. We are on her mind.
You guys are always in my mind. It's just that it gets so busy in here sometimes that I have you on my calendar, but people keep booking on top of it. And it's
Yeah.
like, so well, it's nice to see y'all ladies, all of you. And I'm sorry that I've been apart. So trying to get better. We were traveling a little bit. Now that things are opening up again, we were in Texas at the Texas Robotic Public Safety Summit a couple of weeks ago. Next week, there's 3 shows, I think, or 4th. Jennifer, how many? All at the same time. Unfortunately, we're not going to be at AUVSI, not going to be able to do NAB. We will be at FDIC. We were just in Jacksonville at the IAAI show, and then we were in Colorado at the ACSR show, where this is all about mapping and reconstruction and the use of drones in the scene. So it's very interesting to see where the industry is gone in such a short time. So, and then coming up with solutions, hearing the pain points that everybody has in this industry, it's something that we are doing, and that's our number one concern, providing solutions to the market. The drone is great, but there's so many other things that the drone needs in order for everybody to be able to get their tasks done and their jobs done. So that's where we come in. So we've been keeping pretty busy with lighting solutions and other solutions as well. So looking forward to continue growing with all of you.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely. So you'll be at
Awesome.
which show will you be at, Maria?
FDIC, which is the Fire Chief of Police, it's in Indiana. That's next week. So
Is anybody else going to that show on this call?
I know DJI has a
Yeah.
booth. I shouldn't say this. I know that there's other drone manufacturers that will be there, either if it's on their own booth or with some of their distributors. I'm not sure. But we all know how much the fire world needs drones.
Mhm.
So they're
That sounds like a pretty exciting conference. It's not one that I would think of going to, but man, just to be a fly on the wall in there and some of the conversations. I mean, every time I talk to, fire chiefs or fire first responders that do anything with fire, I mean, when they talk about drones, it just lights up their world, like a good way, not a bad way, so.
absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Drones are a
There's
must.
a lot of
Like a couple of years ago, it wasn't like that. They were scared. Now they're embracing them. So that's what I see more and more, as you guys have seen too, the acceptability and sustainability of UAS.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of great things happening in the industry and a lot of really good conferences coming up. So hopefully everybody gets a chance to attend something, because there's so many to actually attend. And as much as I would love to do our continue circling around, like I know Jennifer has a training coming up this weekend and all, but our spotlight speaker has arrived. Woohoo! And we get to hear what's happening around the world. So I'm very, very excited to make you a co-host. And Tamiko is here. Hopefully I pronounced it right. So make you spotlight for everybody.
Hi, Tamiko.
Hello, everybody.
correct?
How are you? Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
hear you, yes, and we're so glad you could be here for the Desi and Kim Coffee Connection. We thank you so much. I'm excited to hear about what you have going on and the reports that you have been working with and that are out there now, right? You've been doing
Great.
so much research. I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and I'm excited to be here with you. Desi, you've been huge support for us from the very beginning when we started out. As you might be able to tell, I am an American. I've been outside the United States for more than 30 years and 26 years in South Africa. And I'm actually a commercial pilot. I've been flying for 26 years with an instrument rating. I don't fly drones, but it's on the pipeline. I think it's coming down the line. I've got some ideas on that. But I'm going to share with you today something that's very close to my heart. And I know all of you are, I'm speaking to converted. So I'm going to go ahead and please forgive me. I know some of you have seen some of this presentation before, so I'm going to make that apology up front, but I'll give you some updates what's going on, because I can tell you what's happening on the South African side. So can everyone see my screen?
We see your screen and now we see it in full screen. Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want to say thanks to Desi and to a number of incredible women at Women in Drones. We have a very close relationship. I have one of my dreams for a long time was to start my own NGO with 2 co-founders. And so I'm going to share with you very specifically a part of what we talk about, a thing that's very close to my heart, which is when you create a new industry, how do you make sure that women, small businesses, in South Africa we call them SMMEs, people with disabilities and youth, how do you make sure they're included from the beginning? Is it moving? I always have this thing I'm scared of. Is it moving, Des? Just give me a thumbs up if it's moving. Okay. So I'm preaching to the converted today. So I'm going to go fast over a couple of slides where all of you know some of the facts about the size of the industry. But we've got something unusual here in South Africa is we have 35.3% unemployment. So count yourself blessed. When I walk out the door, there are people with their hands out every single day. We have 66.5% youth unemployment. So we're very clearly in a space where South Africa needs new solutions. And what's very interesting for me is to be able to pitch this, and I'm in the process, and I'll take you through what we've actually been doing in some of our dialogues. It's also very helpful when you are in a small country, not like big like the United States, that you get access to different kinds of people and different levels of government. So I've been preaching to them and saying, this is a new industry, we have new job opportunities. How do we turn this into business? And what my NGO is about is entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship opportunity. So this was the research. We conducted 41 interviews, 48 people in total, 11 from around the world, including Desi herself and quite a few women from Women in Drones. I think we had 6 or 7 women, 15 people in total, and I'm really committed to young people. I trained 5 young research assistants, and we had 1 chapter specifically only on women, youth, small business, and people with disabilities. Okay, so what did we find? Well, we knew South Africa was the first country in the world that presented fully fledged Part 101 2015 regulations to ICAO, but we haven't really made much progress since then. I mean, I'm sure you all know about Rwanda, Kenya, and a number of the other countries that are leapfrogging ahead of South Africa. And the other thing that was really interesting for me coming from the aviation space was how complex this industry is. So one of the big points I bring up when I talk to government is to say, do you understand this is not like I thought, and I'll confess this to you because you're all drone aficionados. I thought it was going to be, ooh, this is kind of cute. This is kind of fun. I can get into this industry. I know a little bit about aviation. Yo, this is a baby all on its own. It requires its own expertise. And the interesting thing for me was not that the opportunities came from drones themselves, but as most of you know in this space today, it comes to the data collection and the offshoots and getting the people who understand policy and legislation to say, you know, we have huge unemployment. How do we create jobs? Understand where the jobs can come from. I also think the industry is at a very unique juncture. It's not only in South Africa, but around the world, and particularly in the United States. We actually have BV laws here already, although it's very difficult to get the legislation. Okay, so this is Rafilwe Ledwaba. She runs a program called Girls Fly Program in Africa. They train girls and women in aviation. With Women in Drones Africa, we've started working together with her. And as a sneak preview, we're looking at hopefully pulling off a 3-day Women in Drones Africa conference this year. Everyone put it on your list when you all want to come wine tasting and go see safari. This is the place to come. So Lufilwe is amazing, and she talked a lot about, she is a chopper pilot, a fixed wing pilot, an instructor, worked for the police, everything else. And she says one of the fascinating things for her is the technological element. So she talks to a lot of girls that don't have chances in South Africa. I gave a talk to them between the ages of 14 and 18. Super smart, super bright, quite incredible. So it's really exciting to see this evolution. So what did we see in terms of South Africa specifically? And you're probably going to pick up on this and say, well, some of the same things are existing in the United States. Well, the first thing is people don't understand the legislation. And I think it's a complex legislation, because when you unpack aviation legislation, and it's not simple. You really need an expertise in it. You need to understand it to be able to execute it. And I'm sure you have the same thing in the United States. It's very hodgy-podgy here. Some guy comes in, he's the equivalent of an FAA inspector. He says, yes, I sign you off. Your equipment looks great. The next guy comes the next year and he says, your stuff stinks. You must rewrite everything. So people have a really tough time here because the level of expertise is not deep. It's also very expensive. And then the CAA and the Department of the Civil Aviation Authorities here and the Department of Transport were very offended when I told them, and I'll show you some of the numbers later about how expensive it is to get a license here. And then there's really not an understanding of the drone industry value chain. And I think this goes throughout the world. So what's working in this favor? I mean, all of you are sitting here, you're converted. The opportunities across multiple industries is very interesting. The advance in technology is phenomenal. In the 6 months that it took us to do the research, I could not believe the changes that were taking place. And what's really interesting for me, and this is why groups like Women in Drones are so important, is that you need these collaborative partnerships, because that allows you to leapfrog those stages of development in a brand new industry. So when we talk specifically South Africa, we are the most unequal country in the world. We have what's called a Gini coefficient of 63%, which means the guys at the top and the guys at the bottom. You might think the US is bad, but don't worry, we are right up there. And the same as anywhere else, women are not represented, although we have the infrastructure, believe it or not. We have the experience, we have empowered stakeholders, we have a very, very solid aviation industry here. We have the capability, and thank goodness this was one point that the civil aviation authorities said, wow, we were leaders, we want to be leaders again. So I am hearing an interest in moving forward. But you can see this is Kelebohile Malopiane. She's the CEO of an organization called AB4IR. She says, we don't have enough women, we don't have enough youth, and we are 80% Black in this country, and we don't have enough Black people playing in this space. And I'll take you through some of the cost issues that we have. Okay, Sharon herself, also we interviewed, so she just loves getting women involved in drones. I think Women in Drones is an amazing organization. And I think one thing she really brought out was the need to understand the disruption. And we need to jump in. And it's not a matter of stand back and say, oh, wow, well, let me just wait a little bit and see how things pan out. It's get in there, become a disruptor, look for those strategic partners, and make yourself part of the solutions as you go forward. So this was, I'm sorry, this is a little bit of older stats. I think you just came out with new ones in December. But the headline from our side is South Africa is very similar to the US. We have twice as many women coming into drones. And what was fascinating for me was the age bracket is considerably younger. So 25 to 34 is where your biggest bracket is. So our numbers are very similar to yours. We share this to show people what a sample of what things can look like in South Africa as well. Okay, Dawn Zoldi was also fantastic, brilliant speaker, and she really emphasized that when it comes to building socioeconomic impact, and when you're in a country where there's so much inequality like South Africa, you need to figure out how you're going to build impact in different levels of society. So she said drones are really equalizers in many respects, but they have to be designed properly, meaning the industry needs to be designed. which means you need to look at your infrastructure. You need to look at all your different stakeholders. And I'm going to take you through how our study highlights some of these different areas. Okay, so when you look at an industry, and I'm a researcher by background, so what we do is we say, well, this is nice and neat and clean, and this is how an industry develops. So you have your regulatory framework, and then you build your business case development. And then you have your industry formation and you have your ecosystem activation. But as all of us sitting in this room know, none of this happens in this nice, neat, clean way. But the reality is we need to understand what goes into an ecosystem that makes things possible. So when we took the South African drone industry and broke it down, this is what it looks like at this point in time. An ecosystem is a snapshot at any point in time. So you can see on the far left are all the government bodies inside of South Africa, which are quite significant. So you have your direct drone industry impact, you have your strategic support level, you have your support departments and agencies, you have your users, and for example, in South Africa, we have a huge problem with people who don't have homes, they live in shacks. So let's say, for example, you would say, I'm going to take over all these shacks and build 1,000 homes in an area. What if you took drones and did all the inspection of these homes by drone? So we have innumerate opportunities in this country for the use of drones that would significantly save money on the coffers on a country that doesn't have, and you've been watching around the world, we are having these enormous floods down in KwaZulu-Natal. I just saw some drone footage the other day that showed the extent of all these containers floating down, like hundreds and hundreds of containers stacked up like dominoes. It just like Lego, it looks terrifying. But when you look at an ecosystem, you need these partners. And this is part of our dialogue, is we are very much advocacy for the support of growing industry, but with the purpose of getting entrepreneurs to have opportunities. So we say, here's all your party players. Are you bringing them into the room? Are you having discussions with them? Do you know who they are? Do you know what they're about? Do you know how to tap into them and make use of them and bring them on board? And I'll take you through where we are with government right now with those dialogues. So this just gives you that snapshot of what the South African drone industry looks like. The whole country is about 50 million people, so significantly smaller than the United States. Okay, what are the different areas of success when you have an ecosystem? And this is really significant to me. Groups like Women in Drones are a really important role player in an ecosystem. So you need your vision, you need your policy frameworks, you need capital, you need money to go into things. You need cultural frameworks. We need to talk about success stories. I think this is one of the reasons this forum is so effective, is talking about what works. People sharing stories that you would otherwise never hear about. You need your support structures. I mean, this is a brand new industry. I mean, there's a lot of ignorance about what works and what doesn't work and how to get into it. You need your human capital and you need your markets. So these are all the different elements that when we talk to government, we say, you need to think that you can't just talk to pilots and you can't just talk to people who own drones. You need to think about all these other areas, the education. And I think the US is much better at this type of dialogue engagement than South Africa. But it just indicates the type of conversations that we're having. And then what are some of the insights? Well, in South Africa, this is very specific. You might say it's the same in the United States. We find that people work in silos. Yeah, the guys who are flying are here. The ones who've been in the business and are making money are there and they're talking to themselves. And then the guys who are trying to break in are talking to themselves, and the engineers are over here. There's kind of a lack of general knowledge in the public. People think, oh, a drone is a cute thing I buy and give to my kid for Christmas, and they don't really see it as a serious tool. The support systems in South Africa are very weak, meaning that there's not a lot, but I'll share with you how that's slowly changing. The financial models are not in place. It's not an industry that's easy to make money in. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not in this business, but I've seen people really struggling with it. And so you really need to say, how can we support each other? What is the ecosystem that we need to build? How do we build those collaborations, those partnerships? And how do we build those kind of public-private engagements? And Drones for Good is a really important part. It's really significant. Desi, I have a really fantastic video that I showcase where they do poaching, and they show how they've been saving rhinos and doing all different kinds of conservation work in Southern Africa. But no one organization or person has the monopoly on this engagement. And I think you'll see, and I'm sure you have this as well, you get one party in who wants to own the dialogue, and it's very hard to make sure that there's significant sharing so that you can see growth. Okay, this is Sumari Root. She runs something called Silicon Cape. She's quite an amazing entrepreneur. She's got her own health tech, SMME, small business. And she said one of the biggest issues they have is that venture capitalists are struggling to take this space seriously because there aren't viable business models. So there's a need also probably on an academic and a business point of view for those of you who are successful to capture those success stories so that you can collectively say, this is a great industry. This is the next. It's fintech, health tech, ed tech, drone tech. You need to be in this space. You need to be sponsoring this space. So this is this was, I think, the 10 areas that we suggested. And remember, a lot of our dialogue is specifically aimed at government. So it's embracing this industry, calling it the iPhone of tomorrow. We're encouraging the South African government to take a leadership role on the continent. We still think there's a lot of room for this. And then we recognize it can only start, and I think you're having the same things as well, with government policy, legislation, and frameworks. And by the way, we did speak to people in the UAE. We spoke to people in across Europe. And although it's an aviation business, the biggest opportunities lie outside of the pure aviation space. So this was very interesting for me. And this is, Dawn talks a lot about what she called new collar jobs. Anytime you talk about jobs in a country where there's 35% unemployment, government picks their ears up and they listen. So we talk about jobs a lot. And that's building a culture of tech adoption. And one thing that's really significant all around the world is how do you develop frameworks for new legislation around these tech-related developments, because they're moving way faster than any government or any body could ever work. And one thing we're suffering with, which we don't have yet, which I believe in the United States you're already doing, is implementing drone test pilot sites and corridors as a way to stimulate rural economies. And UTM, we're planning on doing another smaller paper on UTM. And I've got identifying some experts to come in and work with us, and then really looking at those partnerships. This was my last slide, or second to last slide. So we've had meetings with the Department of Transport and the Civil Aviation Authority. We have been invited now. We are a non-drone company, but we've been invited to attend their quarterly forum meetings. They have shared their minutes on the legislation and the policies that they're bringing forward. So I think as a neutral body, and I would say to all of you out there that there's room in this drone space for developing people who do research and who develop practical case studies on where the industry needs to go. There's also a national aviation policy, which now includes the drones, and that's hopefully will be promulgated by Parliament. And there's at least 2 CETAs. In South Africa, our training takes place and is funded through a formal process called the CETAs. And they have accredited drone courses, both on the tech side and the mechanic side and the IT side. And then ourselves as AIP, we've done 3 webinars with industry and experts, including one with women in drones. We've had over 3,000 global engagements. We're only 7 months old, and 34 countries have participated. So just to give you some highlights, I think in the United States, you have about 14,000 registered businesses. We have 88. So our legislation is really strangling the business right now. And the last slide is, this is just a young female aeronautical engineer and a drone pilot, Nomatema Kumalo, and she just said, we interviewed her and she just said, I can't wait to go into this industry. I think there's so many career paths. There's drone coding, there's drone manufacturing, and she, kids out there, they want to make an impact. They want to empower other leaders in the future and come up with skills that are relevant for this space in the future. So that's me in a nutshell. I hope it was not boring. And I'll look for it. I see there's a lot of comments in the chat now. I didn't get a chance to look.
A lot of conversation just going back and forth, and everybody was appreciative of all the information that you have taken so much time to gather and present to us. And thank you so much for that. And I had a question regarding, you were saying that you had 88 businesses. And I know that seems very small and is regard to, you know, when you were giving us the comparison, but how has that grown? Do you have numbers as far as the growth?
It's Desi, it's very small. The problem is, and maybe one of the slides I dropped out was, it costs between $15,000 to about $140,000 to get a drone business in South Africa. And it takes 9 months to 2 years. And of course, when I told the CAA this, they were angry with me and they said, this is not true. And I said to them, I don't have a drone business. I'm not making money in this industry. I said, I'm telling you the facts on this. This was a self-funded study. We were not funded. We used it to launch our NGO. And we are going now into other tech spaces. We've been asked to do work in fintech and health tech and ed tech. So I said to them, this is the truth. It takes 9 months to 2 years for people to get a license. And there are, the EU has probably some of the best legislation on how to take the industry forward. And there is a level in the EU legislation that is the open category, which those of you who are in the industry know well. And so if they can open up the open category and let small businesses like in the United States have, which many of you probably are doing, then you will see a lot more businesses open up. But it was about 74 when we did the study, and then there were a lot of failures and then new people coming in, and now there's 88. So I don't consider that much progress, personally. TA doesn't appreciate my saying it, but someone has to come out and say all those different things, you know.
Well, that leaves the door open for a lot of growth.
Yes,
right?
and I think that's the point, is to say the aviation industry has deep roots in South Africa. There's a lot of talent here. I think it's getting the government bodies to work together. It's the differences were much smaller. So when you're smaller, when you're a monster like the United States, you know, this huge population and huge money and huge economies, it's much harder to get the boat working. We're relatively smaller. I mean, there's even smaller countries within our area. And a long time ago, many moons ago, I was working with Coca-Cola and I was responsible for 4 of them. So it's very easy to work in a country where the population is like 2 million people, but when you're working with 60, it's a little different. But it does mean that I can call the Department of Transport and set up meetings and go see them. I can call the civil aviation and set up meetings. I can get in to see the small business development agencies. I can have dialogues about policy at very different levels. I think the opportunities are there, Desi, to your point. And it's really just getting enough champions in the right places to come on board and move the industry forward. Yeah, the study is available for free. I will put on my my website, and please follow us. We're on LinkedIn, and yeah, please follow us. We're going to be posting updates. I think the first meeting we're going to sit in will be the 30th of May. We'll get a chance to actually sit in the private sector, public sector dialogues, and we're going to challenge them. We're very free to do so. So it's quite helpful.
So
yeah, does anyone have any questions?
you and go ahead and feel free to post your questions into the chat, because we will take those as they pop up. Also, you had mentioned, you know, that hefty price tag on getting the certificate and such like that. What about the training aspect of it? The length of time required. Is there a lot of training involved with it? I believe one of the things would be a practical flight assessment, things like that. I see some comparisons and differences from United States.
Yes, it's, I just saw someone sent me an email today. It's about $2,000 to get your drone license. And if you've never done any training whatsoever, it will probably take you about 3 or 4 months. I was told that it would take me a few weeks, but it's still quite expensive and you have to have a medical. And so that really rules out a lot of people with disabilities because and then a lot of people in South Africa have never had a medical before. So they go in and they're scared and they often fail the rate. And we have to have a radio test. And you know, the nice thing for me as a pilot is I went to CAA and I said, why do you require this? I said, I'm a pilot, I understand. I'm flying instruments into OR Tambo, the international airport. You need me to have a medical, you need me to have a radio license. Why do you need this for drones? I don't understand why you need this. I don't see what's the purpose of it. So the thing is they need to really examine their own processes. And I'm sure all of you who've been in the industry for a while have had your own challenges of people who they're committed, but their level of understanding the industry is not deep. And sometimes when you're in that space, you have to say, I don't know the industry as well as you. Take me through what's important to you. What's your approach on a public-private partnership? How do you create the frameworks for these kind of dialogues? And this is where we specialize, is how does public sector and private sector talk together to make this happen? There's a lot of mistrust. I think it's always there and there's a lot of defensiveness. I think I spent 30 minutes listening to a guy from the CIA becoming very defensive about some of the things. This is not accurate. I said, okay, please give me in writing what's not accurate and I will change it. But it has to be within my data cutoff of the 31st of August. And if you brought in legislation after that, I'm not changing my data. So,
So do you have more people, like I know in the States, you know, even in the different countries, like I belong, states, excuse me, like there's PA Drone Association, there's, you know, people out in Colorado and Utah, like each state, you know, has somebody that they're fighting and representing and pivoting and disrupting, you know, the government level of drones in their state. Do you guys have that as well? Besides,
we have provinces. They're not as empowered as the states. The states each have their own individual budgets and they often bring in their own laws. In South Africa, we don't have the states, the provinces cannot enact their own laws. The municipalities will have their own budgets. So that's significant in the sense that, for example, one of my clients is the city of Johannesburg. And I haven't even approached them with taking this document to them, but I'm sure that the smart cities guys will be interested. But there's a lot more independence in the US. It works for you and it works against you. It works for you that you can take things forward on an advocacy basis on a community level, which we have no power here. But at the same time, it means you're also much more fragmented. So that California does this and Colorado does this and Utah does this and Texas does this. And you might have some fantastic things going on, but you don't have the consistency nationally across the excellence that happens. So we are, our battles.
Right,
Yeah.
and these types of platforms, like you're saying, you know, we've had Vic Moss on here where, you know, like, is it Utah where they're trying to pass that law that with the
Oregon.
state?
Oregon.
Oregon, you know, where he's getting other people, you know, engaged that aren't from that state. So, you know, that's really cool too, just that collaborative level, but we wouldn't know about that if we didn't have a place to meet and hear about it. So that's important too, is just kind of rallying, you know, the people that are involved together, you know, because many hands make light work, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's one thing the US is a bit better at than here, is people really coming in on a community level and contributing, and like we interviewed Vic Moss as well, he's quite amazing. And we don't have that kind of deep
Camaraderie.
No, you don't. People are very kind of, well, this is my business, and I don't want to get too involved because I'm making money, and if too many people come in, then I won't make as much money, or I don't know. It's kind of
Yeah.
strange to me.
Yeah.
But I think you've got some unique champions. You need champions at different levels. So champions at a community level, champions at a state level, champions within government, champions outside of government. You need to know how to rally different champions in different places, and then where the touch points are for the people in the ecosystem to make things work.
Yeah,
But
it's
Vic's
really
amazing.
interesting. Yeah, a lot of comments about how much, people are thanking you for the information, because it gives us a lot of insight, to what's going on in other countries. We travel, we have people on here from different countries. So, yeah, make sure that you contact her if you go to South Africa. We've heard about South Africa. So, have you been on the fireside chat?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Good.
I've been since I think my first when I first started the study, I came in and I announced that I was going to do. Desi was there, and then we had quite a few people from Women in Drones, and everyone suggested who to talk to, and so that was a huge help. And then I think we've also introduced a few people. So now you've got Ian Kiley from Ireland, who's done some amazing work, is now on the Women in Drones Africa group often. So yeah, I think it's these kind of connections. We had a guy from the UAE who was sharing with us about what the dynamics are like in the UAE and flying there. It's all this very congested airspace. So everyone's got sort of a different scenario. We have a legislative specialist, who was from Italy, who's been doing legislation for 20 years. We had someone from Holland who was making his own software. So everybody, there's so much excellence in this industry. And the problem is getting like this kind of forum that Desi leads and that Kim and Louise lead in South Africa is sharing that data and sharing that information, and then seeing who's out there doing what, so that when you do go to that point where you have those questions, do you know who to go to? Do you have names of people you can call on? I mean, for example, what do I know about UTM? I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know a huge amount. I mean, I've done some research on it, but if I get out there and I start calling on people, I have a guy, Asa Kusenberry from Japan, and Japan is leading the way in UTM. They're very collaborative in Japan. There's some amazing stuff happening in Australia. There's companies in the United States who are doing amazing work. So you start to tap into these networks and you bring the experts in the room and say, okay, guys, I don't really know a gigantic amount about this, but this is kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think? And what do you think we should do going forward? And who do we need to have around the table in this discussion? And we can be a neutral facilitator because we don't have a vested interest. So you need all these different role players, like what Desi is doing and Louise and Kim, and what Shannon is doing in terms of Women in Drones. And then a number of you are probably sitting on committees and talks and joining groups. And that is all contributing to the growth of the industry.
So I just posted, just in case some people are aware of what UTM is, as far as our industry, and there is such a bigger picture, just like you said during your slides, through the aviation industry, it is a bigger picture, not just small uncrewed systems. You know, there is a much, much bigger picture. And I'm a big fan of promoting youth, as I know several people here are, because it's our future and it's how we're planning to build. So just one more comparison into South Africa. Do you see a lot of potential for youth STEM programs and such? Has there been a lot of growth in that area?
Yes, absolutely. There's huge interest from young people. I actually dropped some of the slides out because I didn't want to give you too many slides. But I think when they polled people, they said about 34% of the people are interested in tech. So a lot of kids will be in a township and they'll grow up in a very poor area. But you'll be surprised. They'll be poor, but they'll have a cell phone. So if you can use a cell phone, you can go on the direction of operating a drone. So the interest is enormous, Desi, to your point, and kids are keen. The problem we have is there's not the pull through on the other side. You can get 1,000 kids and 2,000 kids, all these applications, and they all get licenses, but where are they going to go if there's only 88 companies? You need a big market to absorb the labor pool that's coming out. So unless they open the market and expedite opening more businesses and making it cheaper and easier, which they promised me that they have, but I will only tout that when I have the facts for myself and from the words and the mouths of the people who are actually able to do these things. They actually have invited us to sit in some of these education meetings, and then we'll give them our frank feedback and say, look, you know, we're very impressed with this part. We're not that impressed with this part. You know, we're very neutral in that sense. So it will be very interesting, but that is the biggest piece for me is the youth, the women, the people with disabilities. And I see Jennifer Birdsong, she was also in one of our interviewees. So I think that the opportunities for women, for youth, for people with disabilities are phenomenal. And this is really where a lot of the biggest need is, particularly where I'm coming from. There's enormous people curious. They want to learn more. They want to get into it. They want to learn how to fly drones. They want to learn more about drones. They want to learn about data. You know, these young girls, the 14 to 18-year-olds, when I talk to them about what's it like to be an entrepreneur, they're really, really amazing. They're so bright. They're so hopeful. And you just want the market to open up and provide jobs for them. I wish we were sitting in the space where you are with the US, where you can't find people to do work. We're in the opposite scenario.
So do you foresee this report that I know you have taken so much time diving into this and all, but do you foresee doing the same similar thing in the United States, or just you actually used to live here, correct? And now you live in South Africa.
Yeah, no, I'm originally from LA. I actually learned to fly in Los Angeles. I have distinct memories of flying over LAX with 26 planes coming in at the same time. So when they talk to me and they say, there's so much traffic, I says, where? Where's the traffic? Tell me where that traffic is. You guys don't know what traffic is. So I've been here a very long time. I'm married to a South African. I came over on a job with Coca-Cola, and I've stayed, and so I love it here. The bush flying here is phenomenal. You can't touch it. So what you can go out in 45 minutes out of the city and see is, you know, you're landing there with elephants and giraffes, and then you go land in some 4-star lodge and have a glass of wine and hang out. It's really amazing.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
No,
I know.
We don't have that. So, you know, you guys got stuff we don't have. Of course, you know, we have Alaskan stuff, but yeah, definitely. Michelle
says sold.
So there is a plan underway for, and it's not confirmed yet, for a Women in Drones Africa 3-day conference. We're in discussions with Women in Drones Africa together with Girls Fly Program Africa. I'm currently in discussions. We're doing some work with an organization called Telcom, They are the largest telecommunications provider in South Africa. So they've asked us to do some drone workshops, fintech, health tech, and ed tech. And we are hoping that that will move forward in some of the dialogue. There's some proposals in front of them. If that comes off, Desi will come on and announce it. And of course, I'm sure everybody will want to come here and fly and drink wine and see elephants. So we'll have to see, but they're going to have to get it so you can fly your drones here too.
And you might do it in that order too, because
That's right.
we definitely don't drink wine first, and we may need wine to be out there adventuring in the elephants with the elephants.
You will.
Kim James shared one time when the elephant sat on her car, so I'm not so scared.
Many of these stories, there's rhinos that come up and rub up against your airplane and ruin the skin of the airplane. And I think, what was the scariest one I had? I don't think I've had too bad. I think it's mostly been weather. I've flown up into the border of Angola, where the Himba people are. I have a little jewelry business and I buy jewelry there. I buy some of the jewelry there. So I've been pretty fortunate.
That's really cool. That's like what really sets apart, that's really cool, because you take, you're a professional pilot, but yet you use it, like people do with drones as a hobbyist, and you're able to go different places. And that's what really, is so cool that you get to do, is that you get to fly into you take advantage of that, and you get to fly into these remote locations and in see spots that people would never see. That's really,
well, I think
what
for all of
adventurous lifestyle.
Yeah, but for all of you, I mean, to be in aviation is to be in that space. You are in the sky. You are eye in the sky. You are seeing the world in a different way. So it's very freeing. It's a very unique space. Whether you're in the United States, or if you're in Alaska, or you're in South America, or you're in Africa, it's a very unique. Aviation is a very special field, and it attracts a certain kind of person. And yeah, so I'm talking to Rafilwe about doing a trip with me. I said to her, I need to go buy some more beads from the Himba women. That's the women are all covered in red ochre. And I said, you must come with me, because I haven't flown up there for a while. So I need someone to sit right hand seat. But yeah. So those are some of the things that I think that this world gives to us, and it gives us those type of opportunities.
Yes.
And I think we're very blessed in that way to have that space.
So as we get ready to wrap it up, we only have about 3 minutes left here, but what is your biggest takeaway from all the deep dive study that you did?
I think my biggest takeaway is, Desi, is that the opportunities are endless. And it's a really unique industry. It's a special industry. I think one of my slides that I didn't show was, I really think drones are going to change the world. And I say this very straight to whoever I'm presenting. I'm not even a drone pilot, and I'm saying to you, I think this industry is going to change the world. And all of those of you who are in it are in a very unique space. And I think you should applaud yourselves and celebrate yourselves for being in that space. Yeah. And I encourage all of you to get involved as champions and take it further.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Well, we thank you
Right,
very,
folks?
very much.
Do it.
Yep. So as we get ready to wrap it up, if everybody could just take a minute and put the information, your personal information, into the chat. We're all about networking, and we want to make those connections. And then that way we can all save the chat, and we can make sure that we can connect once there we go. Look at there. Michelle's already got hers in there. We thank you so much for all the information you shared today. Don't forget, she did already put her website in there, so that report is available, full of good information. And we just thank you so, so much for joining us here today on the Desi and Kim Women in Drones Coffee Connection. Yay!
Yeah, and awesome, like, it's great to hear the comparisons because, you know, like, it just goes, it's a great reminder for all of us how fortunate we are, and that how, you know, a lot of times you can get on these platforms like on Facebook and different things. This isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. But yet actually to build a business in the drone space, just buy a drone, you know, get certified and start building a business. That's something, you know, all that takes time, regardless who you are and what you do. You know, that opportunity is here in the United States. So that's the beauty of, you know, the States. And I really appreciate that reminder that you gave us. And we're leading the way for other countries. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for everything. Thank you for joining us today too. We're just
Yeah,
really-
thank you.
Great
Desi.
seeing everybody this week and your smiles. Yes.
Yep.
Great to
Yep.
see you.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank
again.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Are you guys doing the meeting virtually next week? Or
Yes.
is it anything?
Yeah, we're gonna do it even when they're in the, we'll have it too when they're away as well. too.
Yes, even when we are in Texas, Kim will be running the show.
For all of
and-
us that stay behind, I won't be in Texas, so for all of us that stay behind,
Awesome.
So
We'll see you
looking
then.
forward to that workshop. Yes.
and then we'll have a talk where we can talk about the workshop, just so you guys can see, you know, men and women can see what's going on at some of these workshops and why it's worth your time and your dime to attend.
Ooh, time and dime. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really looking forward to it. I can't wait. All right. So good to see
Okay, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We'll see you next week. Have
Bye.
a great week.
Bye, Tamiko.
Remember, you're the leaders that people are
Bye. Thank
looking
you, Desi.
for.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Sharon.
All right. Bye. That kind of wraps it up.